America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So next up, we have our agenda review. At this point, I would accept the motion to approve it as published, and note that we did find out that SFEA was not presenting tonight, so they've been recently removed, if anybody had looked at it quite recently.
I move to approve the agenda.
So
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right. Debbie, thank you.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right, thank you. And we'll move through the consent agenda as well. At this point, would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as published online.
So moved.
Yep, moved
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Okay,
Jonathan?
yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Excellent. All right, well, that takes us to our first, our only union presentation tonight, OSEA. Are they online?
Michelle Livingston?
I am not seeing Michelle Livingston in the attendees.
Okay. We can come back.
I'll keep
to
my
that.
eye on it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, we can come back to that. That does move us to our first public comment. And I will read the statement, and then we will look to see if anybody online has either raised their hand or has requested through sending an email to Debbie, or is in the audience and wishes to present or speak to the board. We're glad that you're here and welcome you to address the board at this time with your ideas, opinions, questions, concerns, or compliments. Please be certain to sign in before you present. Remember that we all model the way for our students, and we ask that you share your thoughts in a respectful way. The board's role during public comment is to listen. Rarely will you get an immediate response to information. If there is follow-up necessary, we will direct our superintendent to do that. In order to ensure equity among speakers, the board will limit remarks to 3 minutes per individual. If a group of 3 or more wishes to appoint a representative to speak on its behalf, the board will extend the time for remarks to 5 minutes. A second public comment will occur later in the agenda, specific to discussion and action items of the meeting. Anybody who wishes to address the board, online or here?
No online.
Daniel, is the chat enabled so people could notify via the chat?
All right. Well, we have a second public comment, so I think we're going to carry on. That brings us to our administrator and staff reports. And first up is the superintendent report.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. I just wanted to start out by saying we found out late this afternoon that OSEA has ratified the new 2-year contract. I just wanted to make it a point for the record to congratulate Dan and the negotiating team for a job very well done. It was a long road. I also want to thank Janet Alanak for being a part of that. She played a major role in helping keep the negotiations flowing. This was not easy at first. We were quite a distance apart from one another, but I think one of the things that was so encouraging was that as we started to get towards the final end of the negotiations, to see them really open up and each side listening to each other. I want to also congratulate Vance Taylor and his team for just doing a great job of hanging in there and listening and asking great questions. And I think both sides are to be commended. And we have a 2-year collective bargaining agreement coming out of that. And so that's just wonderful. I want to talk for a minute just about our work with the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee, because that is, at least in my estimation, one of the most important things we have going on right now, because it will set us up for for future work as we start to lay the groundwork in a couple of years for what we hope will be the board considering a capital improvement bond. But the work needs to start now. It's a very difficult time to do this work. But last year we had 13 successful meetings of the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. This committee process has spanned 3 years and 3 superintendents. And so we picked up the ball last year, last fall, ended our 13th meeting in late spring. One of the things that kept coming up at every single one of the 13 Long Range Facilities Planning Committee meetings was the question about our K-8 community. And more specifically, what our K-8 communities want their future to look like. And the consensus, at least in my opinion, has been that this type of a formal process has never been conducted to really get to the bottom of how our K-8s feel about their future and what they want, instead of us taking the approach of this is what you get. We really want to know their thoughts, feelings, and perspectives. And so over the summer, as you know, I had a work group of 21 of our K-8 constituents and stakeholders, and we met twice, once in June and once right at the very end of August, to design a process to hold listening sessions. And so we will have a listening session for each one of our K-8 communities at their K-8 facilities. It will be done outdoors, properly distanced, of course, so we can really, really dig in and find out, once and for all in a formal report that I will make back to the board and the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee about what our communities want for themselves, want for their children, want for their communities. Each one of our K communities is a very distinct area, both with geography and other. As you know, we've hired Kelowna Education Services to facilitate these meetings. It's really important that we have a third party to take the emotion out of the facilitation so we can just listen to what our K communities want. And I've sent out those timelines and those updates to both you, the board, and to the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee about when those exact dates are. We start our first one with Butte Creek on the 21st, then going to Scotts Mills the day after that, and so on. We're sort of working in a clockwise rotation around the district, not quite perfect that way. But our principals are off and running, contacting individually each one of the stakeholders of those K-8 communities. It's vital that we have large turnouts. We will make sure that we're following safety guidelines and distancing, but in order to have a report, a final report, and a presentation back to you that stands the test of time, we must have a significant portion of our school community showing up to talk to us, to let us know what it is that they would like to see for their facilities and their future. We intend to wrap this up in November, early November. I will have a report finished by mid-November that will outline the perspectives on facilities for our K-8 communities, and also any other topics that come up during these listening sessions. We will record those formally in the report as well. I think it's really important that this report stand the test of time, that it be a snapshot of what was going on at that time in that region of the district, because that all matters. And I'm going to use Brett Davison, principal of Silverton Middle School's quote. And Brett has grown up here. Brett went to K-8s. He is a Silver Falls graduate. And what Brett says is all things in Silver Falls go back to facilities. And that's one of the most powerful statements I've ever heard since being here. So many different things tied back to the buildings in our different K-8 communities. And we intend to make sure that we clearly understand what each community's values are and that we respect and protect those values as well. I will be presenting back to you, the board, in late January. I'll first present to the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. We have one meeting dedicated just for the presentation of that report that I will give. We've also designated a second meeting for that committee just in case they need more time to think about the information that's presented, ask questions, and I'll present to you when we present the final recommendation that the committee has made for the future of our facilities. I wanted to thank Steve Nielsen for helping us get a 60-day extension to the long-range facilities planning application process, because there is some grant money that goes along with that. And ODE had already granted us a year. So much gratitude to them for allowing us to stretch that out a couple months so we can fit in the listing sessions. And then just a shout out to the 21 K-8 community members who I've gotten to know very well. And it's just been an absolute pleasure working with every single one of them. I also wanted to thank our board members who are part of that work group, Jennifer, Jonathan, and Aaron, who is also was a member of our long-range facilities planning committee, now board member. That has been, for me, one of the highlights of this past year, working with that group. And I think that they gave us some very, very good advice on how to structure our listing sessions, the right questions to ask, and also we were able to report back to them the process that we have designed. After this process is over, Brett Davis and I, who's serving on in this work with me, will go back to every K-8 community to report back what we learned from gathering this information for the report. So anyway, thank you for allowing me the time to explain that. And if you have any questions, I'm at your service to answer them.
Yeah, Scott, I got a quick question. If someone can't make the meeting or is uncomfortable because of COVID, can they submit their comments?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
We will have a process for that. Absolutely.
Super.
So community members can send those to us, and we will also have a process at the K-8 listening session. If stakeholders don't feel comfortable speaking publicly, they can write down, and we'll have a way for them to do that as well.
Perfect. Thanks.
We will not be video recording the listing sessions, and there's a really good reason for that. Number one is that it's a listening session. And in listening sessions, we have to be able to create an environment where people feel comfortable, people feel safe to share whatever's on their mind, to talk freely, and it's at least been our estimation that video recording that type of a meeting would get in the way of that. So that's our thinking right now. It will be recorded verbatim. Debbie will be there taking notes, and we will use all of that to incorporate into our final report. The other thing is, once the report is done, all 21 work group members will sign off on it, that the process was collaborative, above board, and transparent. And so that's also something I forgot to mention. And again, that the operative word here is trust, collaboration, and transparency. So I hope that answered your question, Tom.
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
I have a question. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, Lori.
Okay, very good. Yes, if you recall, during our board meeting in May, there was one of the long-range facilities planning committee members who spoke on behalf of some other members on that committee, and they had some concerns, and they had a pretty good list. Have they been spoken with, and have they been addressed? Because I think that goes into everything that we are currently doing as far as collecting information and making the best possible decision as we move forward.
Thanks, Lori. Thank you for that question. I believe what you're referring to, Lori, though correct me if I'm wrong, is having to do with the long-range facilities planning process specifically, not with the K-8 listing sessions.
Correct.
And yes, so good question.
Yeah,
So
and because that was the letter that was directed to the board, and I believe it was directed to us because the individuals didn't know the actual. I'm getting echoes. The mechanism in which to share it with the board and also with administration. And so I just wanted to follow up on that since we're discussing.
If
That-
memory serves, Lori, I don't know if I've seen that letter. I'd love to see it if you have it. Our next Long-Range Facilities Planning Committee meeting is at the beginning of October. I have a planning
Okay.
meeting for that on Wednesday with BLRB, and we'll
Oh,
be getting
okay.
that agenda out
Okay.
soon. So, and we'll be meeting monthly with the Long-Range Facilities Planning Committee until the due date of our application, which is at the end of February.
Lori and Scott,
Okay, and
I think you
as
did
far-
follow up on that. It was the thrust of the letter was about communication and agendas and.
Okay, so a
So
number
I
of
think, I'm
months
pretty
ago.
sure you reported back to
Number of
us
months
about
ago.
that.
Okay,
okay.
thank you, Jennifer.
Is that the end of the report? Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay. 7B, SIA Annual Report.
Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay, so we are just completing our first year of spending from the student investment account, and we are required to do an annual report each year and submit it to ODE with board minutes. So you're going to hear about how we spent our money this year and just a little bit about moving forward, and mostly all about last year. So, just a reminder about the big picture with SIA funds. This is from House Bill 3427, which is the Student Success Act. This was $2 billion invested in education in the state of Oregon. $200 million went back to the state school fund, 20% to the early learning division, 50% to the student investment account, or SIA, and 30% to statewide education initiatives. And remember, ODE gave us these parameters in spending the SIA funds. They need to meet these two needs, students' mental or behavioral health, and increase academic achievement for all students and reduce disparities for students of color, students with disabilities, emerging bilingual students, students navigating poverty, homelessness, and foster care, and other students that have been historically experiencing disparities in our schools. So really targeting this money to students who have struggled within our school system. So many of you were a part of this. We spent a few years planning in making our plan and how we were going to spend our money. So in school year 2018-19, we used data from our surveys and listening sessions with staff, students, and parents and the community from our strategic plan. In 1920, we formed a district equity team. We continued surveying by purchasing Youth Truth, and then we started some community partnerships and some foci group. And then in 2021, COVID kind of put a kink in our plans, but we did continue the Youth Truth surveys, and Jennifer Hannon did several presentations at the school board and at budget committee, just to update everyone. So we spent just under $1 million this year, which was our SIA allocation. Our big expense was getting Sequoia Falls Academy up and running for our most impacted 6th through 12th grade students. We also increased funding. We added 2 social workers in the district, and we, I think, a total of 1.0 FTE of counselors as well to support our K-8 schools, so that no counselor has more than 2 schools right now. We've also spent the money on professional development for staff to implement our guaranteed and viable curriculum district-wide. Lessons learned this year. We had clear priorities from our community engagement that we should spend our money on our most at-risk students for behavioral and mental health. We faced many challenges through COVID. COVID in particular was a challenge with communication because we could not come together and talk to individuals. Construction to get into the building was a challenge. Again, COVID greatly impacted that. Recruiting and hiring also was a challenge because all of the school districts in the state were tasked with spending this money in the same way, and so it's very competitive right now for behavioral and mental health hiring. We're still looking for great applicants for lots of positions in the future as well. So, and it's just these kids are really struggling, and so we need to act quickly. Feedback and engagement, like I said, was also a challenge, just connecting with folks during COVID. And just acknowledging that sometimes we struggle with contacting some of our families in their home language. And we ended up having a task force of Spanish-speaking employees who helped us do individual phone calls and just form deeper connections with those families. And next steps, so you can see our next 2 years of allocation is about $3 million each year in our student investment account funds. And so, of course, we're going to maintain our current plan with Sequoia, social workers, counselors. We're going to maintain our implementation of guaranteed and viable curriculum. And right now we are adding a bilingual community liaison position, a welcome center, and more bilingual support. And we are looking at purchasing and adopting English language arts materials for K-12. So those will be our next big expenses, and we're also starting next steps with engagement and feedback again with our community. We're still working off the same SIA plan that we developed in 2018-2019. We're just working on implementing all of those things now, and then we'll need to adjust that plan as our community and families and student data inform us. So, any questions about SIA? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any. You guys have any questions? I appreciate the information, and it's it's good to talk through and remind ourselves what's happened. It's been easy to overlook, I think, over the last couple of years, to be honest. So.
COVID definitely put a kink in the plans, but we're up and running now and hopefully moving forward. So.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
I have I don't know, point of information, because I've heard this is the second time I've heard this, and one of the details that we talked about in the SFEA and the leadership meeting was the idea of the Welcome Center, where having one place where you can serve kids that are going to go to any school is important, and that's part of that Welcome Center concept. And I thought that was an important thing that maybe everybody here would want to hear too.
Yeah, and I'm happy to speak more about that. Right now, our vision at first was to combine this with Sequoia Falls, but we're finding that they need their staff internally to support their students, and so we're adding a position at the district office right now, and we're creating a lobby that will have Chromebook stations, and so parents and families are able to come in and access and speak in the language, in their home language, and get all of the information they need for any of our schools.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you. That's going to move us to 7C, the classified union contract, and I think Dan was going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll just echo some of the things Scott mentioned earlier. Really enjoyed the process with our classified group. Of course, anytime you're entering into negotiations, there can be things that you're trying to work through. And what I really appreciated about Vance and his team was a willingness to, we came together in small groups during the final month or so to just better understand the issues that we were facing, and what can we do in a smaller group environment to better understand what data do they need from us, what questions do we have from them, in an environment that when you're not sitting in a room where you have these tables where you're literally across the table from each other on camera, and it can get kind of personal and tough sometimes, where we sat around a circular table and tried to better understand each other. And that was where major breakthroughs happened, and we were able to negotiate a 2-year agreement on this. And so for those that are, for members of the public that are looking on Board Book, if you look at what's on there, because this is a reopener of the contract, there were only 4 articles that were opened. And so if folks want to, and I will give a summary of these, but Articles 3, 4, 16, 18, 20, and 25, so there were 6 articles open, 2 economic and 4 language articles. So again, on Board Book, any changes were on there are in highlights. So if people want to go on there and look what changed in the contract, they can go in and into those articles. Again, those were 3, 4, 16, 18, 20, and 25, and look at the specific changes. I'll quickly run through what was negotiated in Article 3 under salary. There was for this school year is a 2.75 COLA that's retroactive to July 1. And then one of the issues that we had to work through was our enrollment uncertainty is having an impact in our funding. And so the classified union came up with an idea of what if would we be willing to have incremental steps into that COLA should our enrollment rebound. And it's not uncommon during a budgetary cycle with the state cycle to have if the state comes in at this much, the COLA will jump up. So they applied that thinking to enrollment. So I thought that was creative. And so I won't go through all those numbers there in the contract, but we essentially, if our enrollment got back to where it was pre-pandemic, the COLA would increase another up to 1.5. So I thought that was a really creative thinking on their part, and so that was a good breakthrough. And then for next school year, there'll be another 2.75 COLA. And then we worked on a shift differential. So previously, if you worked a swing shift that started at 2 o'clock, you got a 2% differential. And we worked through, we wanted to change that due to some pay equity issues that we were encountering during break times. And so now folks that anytime somebody works after 6 p.m., they get a 65-cent per hour supplemental pay. And so, and for those folks, that was a better adjustment than that 2% was. So we also made some changes in longevity stipends, insurance increase. So our classified folks.
25 a month.
So went
25.
up 25 a month. So went up $25 per month, and then $1,700 a month for the next school year. We made some adjustments in vacations to where now when you start, after you complete your first year in Silver Falls, you automatically get 10 days of vacation. We cleaned up some language with emergency school closure. We became experts last year in emergency school closure. And so we had made adjustments in the previous negotiations to align for our 10 and 11-month employees to our teacher contract, aligns more to them. But the tough part is with our 12-month employees, there's no days to make up. And so we really had to kind of figure out what to do with that. And so we got clarification for 12-month employees. And then we just kind of cleaned up some language in leaves, and then the classified folks wanted to make some adjustments in the reduction in workforce and recall, in some cases adding the number of days that folks would get, if they're notified of a reduction in force, the number of days they get to make a decision and get back to us. And so we just made some adjustments to those dates. So I don't know, Steve, you were very much a part of this. Is there anything you'd like to touch on or add on there?
No, I think that's a good summary. We were very happy to get a 2-year agreement. It aligns with the biennium, so that's a good thing, and also will stagger bargaining as we head into the next spring. We'll start bargaining with the Teachers Association again, so it's always nice to be able to have focus on one bargaining at a time instead of have 2 going on at any particular time, and so that's good. So I would concur with Dan that we appreciated the collaboration with their team, and I think a couple of the smaller group breakouts was helpful, and actually they had come up with the idea around the enrollment provisions, which seemed to make a lot of sense for the situation we're in at the moment.
Yeah, very
And so
good.
we did find out this afternoon, late this afternoon, that OSEA did ratify. The voting closed at 4 p.m., and so it is ratified, and we would ask for your approval on the action items later tonight. With approval, we'll be able to perform the retro pay calculations on the September payroll, which has to be submitted next Wednesday. And fortunately, with that scenario, 70% of our employees haven't been paid in this fiscal year yet. Only about 30% of the classified were paid in July and August, are year-round employees, so we'll only be talking about retro pay for that group of people, and the folks that just started and their first payroll being September, all the changes will take effect with no retro calculation. So
Yeah, very good. Great job, guys.
All right.
thanks.
Any questions? Additional comments? Okay, well, that moves us to our financial report.
Thank you. Good evening again. So the July and August financial statement activity is rather quiet from a, I guess, volume standpoint. We'll really get going in September with all the employees back. So there's no surprises on the August financial statement, but the thing that we really obviously need to be keenly focused on that we've been talking about for the last year and a half is the enrollment situation, and obviously ties directly to our revenue. And so there's two major parts to this, and the first one we know since we've started school, and the second one we won't know for a little bit, and I'll explain that. But I did put an additional link under my section today. It's the enrollment report, and I did not put one on there last week because Wednesday when we posted the agenda was only the second day of school, so I waited until today's numbers, and there's a spreadsheet link there. I think Daniel's going to put it on the screen for everyone to see. It's in the format of our typical monthly enrollment report we've been doing since COVID started, and the official reporting period for the first period ADM is not until October 1, but now that we're 5 days into school, we have there it is. It's tough to read from here on the screen, but basically we are currently at 3,571 students, including the charter school, which is only 8 students above where we ended last year. So pretty much a wash at this point. If anything, over the next week, once we get past the first 10 days of school, we might see the number drop a little bit because students are automatically carried over, and then after 10 days, if we don't receive word on them, then they're removed. Some have already been removed, and we also have been seeing some kids start each day, so it kind of goes back and forth. So I'm trying to, on the spreadsheet, kind of telling a 3-year story. So we have a column for current total by school, the total at the end of last school year, and then the total at the end of the 2019-20 school year, which was 3,940. So that last column of comparison compares the 6/18/20 column versus today. And so you can see district-wide we're down, compared to the end of the 19-20 school year, 369 students, or 9.4%. 28 of the 369 are from the charter schools, which affects us in a different way, or a less impact financially. So basically 341 students down. And you could see there's quite a bit of difference between the different schools, and also between different grade levels. So at the bottom there, I ran a tally of June 2020 versus current by grade as well. So as we talked about last year, the high school and the middle school down, but not a lot, especially the high school down only 2%. A few of our outlying schools are down less than 10%, and the rest of the schools are down well over 10%. And then, of course, the grade that's impacted the most is kindergarten. Now, fifth grade's a bit of an outlier. I think that's just I mean, there were students lost due to the pandemic, but also I think that's just a smaller group of fifth graders compared to 2 years ago. So that's where we are today. So the bad news is, 341 students times $9,226 is a little over $3.1 million. But the other shoe to fall, or whatever the saying is, that the other ball to drop, so to speak, is what's going on with the other 196 school districts. And the reporting, again, was based on 10/1 and is due mid-October. So we probably won't get an updated state school fund estimate till the end of October or early November. So I would anticipate reporting back to you what the other part of this is at the November board meeting, hopefully before, but that's what I anticipate. So the state, on their state school fund sheet, projects 703,000 ADMW, average daily membership weighted, for the whole state. And that equates to a little over $9,000 per student per district. It varies for each school district based on transportation and some other factors. So what I figured out today was about every 1% drop in that number equates to somewhere between $800 and $900 per student increase. So the pool of money will remain the same that the state has. Now, some of that fluctuates based on local revenue for each district, but the state school fund number, as long as the economy holds, won't change. So that number's fairly static, and then it needs to be divided by the number of students in the state. So we know that most districts are down. I don't know if every district's down 10%, or some are probably down less, some could be more. But if on average each school district was down 10%, you'd be looking at a 70,000 student reduction statewide, so roughly 630,000 students. So, that could make up quite a bit of the difference of losing 400 students by taking up the per student amount from 9,226 to anywhere from 9,500, 9,800, something like that. So where we lose 3 million on one side, it might be 2 million or 2.5 coming back the other way potentially, but we just don't know until all of the reporting to the state is complete and the new state school fund estimate comes out.
Mhm.
So one other thing that I'm again thankful for is we were able to close the PERS bond sale on August 19th, and we immediately, as soon as the money went to PERS, 2 days later received our rate credit of about 11% on the PERS rate. Now we have to pay about 8% of payroll to service the bond, but that's about a 3.5% of payroll savings, or $700,000 or $800,000 in employee costs this year for PERS specifically. So that will help us with this as well. So I will send updates as I get them, but this is day 5 of school, and it's the best information we have right now.
Very good. Well, thank you. I'm glad that they're at least holding where they are, right? It's
Yeah.
glass half full here, so.
Yes. That's all I had for tonight.
Any questions, comments? All right, well, that moves us to our first discussion item tonight. We have up the public comment document. We actually had this on the agenda for the work session, and then we realized we had a mix-up and had the wrong document. So Janet made sure, she told me that this was the right one. She couldn't be here tonight, but of course we've talked about it some already. So I'll open up the floor to conversation about this document, and we do have an action item later on to basically approve this document, provided there is consensus. It does include a new statement that is to be read. It's a modification of the one that we've been reading, including the one that I read tonight. You guys can read it, but it's similar, but it clarifies a few things. It talks about, it sort of accounts for the fact that we're going to be, I think, permanently with a Zoom option, right? So there's kind of multiple ways to address the board. And, you know, we talk about recording your name, relationship to the district, things like that. We mentioned the 3 minutes and the 5 minutes, that remained the same. And there's a section regarding hearing complaints against individual staff or board members that we've added. Any conversation, any thoughts? If not, we'll be voting on it later. Well, thanks to Lori and Janet for bringing this up and for doing the work. All right, next up, we have our, it's really not so much a discussion item as sort of just identifying the fact that we have budget committee vacancies coming up. We have 3 openings and 1 that is a transfer out of district, so we need to replace.
4 total.
So 4 total, yeah, sorry. So there's 3 that would normally be up for adding, and then in the normal cycle. And then there's 1 who has left the district and we need to replace her. And she was in year 1? So there's 2.
She was in year 2, so we have
W-
1 year to.
Sorry, okay, so there's 1 year remaining on that one. So if anybody specifically wants to, you know, apply for that position, then the important factor there is they would get 1 year and then be up for renewal. That way we can keep the regular cadence in track. So just kind of keep that in mind. And the application is on our website.
It will be.
Oh, it will be?
Because I'll have to do
Okay.
2 separate.
Got it.
1 for the 1 year, 1 for the 3 years.
Yes, there will be 2 applications, 1 for the 1 year, 1 for the 3 year ones. And those will be available soon, let's say sometime soon. And we normally hold that open for 30 days. Presuming we get lots of applicants, that's sufficient. If we don't, we have extended it in the past. You know, last year with COVID and everything else going on, I think we just sort of, you know, let it ride a while to make sure we had applicants, so. Any questions or comments or discussion on this? Was I clear as mud?
I got it.
Thanks. All right, that moves us into our policy updates, and we have a number of policies on second reading and a number of policies on final reading. We don't have any new policies tonight, so what I'm going to do to sort of, I guess, be efficient, is I'm going to ask if there are any discussion on any of the second reading topics, policy updates tonight. And if so, we can talk about those, and if not, we'll move to the next group. Okay, any discussion on the final reading ones? That includes student transportation, personnel records, admission of resident students, and threats of violence. These final ones will be an action item later tonight, and we will be voting on them as a block. Okay. Well, that brings us to our second public comment, and these are specific to discussion and action items.
Jonathan, so Michelle Livingston is on there now, and so I
Okay.
thought this would be a good place to, right before public comment. So Daniel, if you can promote Michelle to a panelist.
Perfect.
All right, Michelle, I think that if you can unmute, I think you're good to go. There you are.
There I am, on mute video.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey there. I want to see the whole screen. Hold on a second. Nope, screen. Hold on a second. Okay. That looks normal. Hi, guys. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, on behalf of the union leadership, not necessarily that it's from our whole membership, we haven't even had a chapter meeting yet, which is happening Thursday, but we just want to touch base. Also, hi for anybody new in the school board or anybody. I'm Michelle Livingston, secretary for our OSEA union local chapter. I kind of want to start in also where Dan was with bargaining, which really turned out amazing. It seemed like there were some stagnant issues in the middle of it, or, stagnant is probably a good word. And then the round table circles really did help us work out. And so we're wondering if some of our relationships are slipping where we had, and I'm also only like one more year experience than Dan or Scott at all of this too, but some prior things that had not gone well for people or relationships where it seemed like we had been doing really good the last couple years. In our last bargaining session, we had a lot of collaboration and then it was stagnant. So also really glad that we could end up in that round circle, smaller meetings, everything could get on the same type of page. So really appreciative of that. It was really hard for a minute and we managed to work through it all together, which is really shows a lot we all know this community is awesome and we can work through it. But we did come in feeling like it was going to be, similar to last time, and then it wasn't. So our bargaining did take probably longer than it should have for just a reopener. But I don't know. I'm not sure where it came to different standpoints. But it feels like after we had closed communication, or not closed, but like talked in with each other, we could understand where we're coming from on different pages. And sometimes at the table, things were heated. So I know from our executive board, our union leadership, we're hoping to move forward with, we can all still be open, have good communication. This is what works for us. This is what we need. This is what you guys need. So I know there was a couple times where we weren't all on the same page, but we ended up on the same page, which was really nice. But also we did have our union side agree to it, to ratify, so looks like our CBA is going to move forward from here. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. There was our positive note. But then we've also been feeling like maybe some of our our relationship has been slipping, or communications have not been where they should have been. And maybe we've been on summer breaks and we're not all really communicating, and we had the bargaining, but I know we all want to not mend things because nothing's broken, but we all want to move forward. We all really enjoy the relationship since like Dan and Scott have gotten here. And we all seem to really be able to work well together and mend things or back and forth. So from our side of things, we're very much looking forward to, let's move forward, mend things, keep things from needing mended. If it takes little side round tables, that's awesome. If we can just do it, emails, that works great too. But we did feel like bargaining went really well. And, there was a couple different things that we were asking for, or they were asking for, that we really had to come to terms on, like insurance. Oh, $5, $25. Our plans went up X amount, 30-ish, where we're still comfortable there. It still felt good. It felt good to come to our agreements. So, you know, as hairy as bargaining can get sometimes, it's really nice that we have a good team now that can work through these things and go for positive futures. I think that's all I had. Sorry, I was just looking at my notes and got distracted, but thank you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah, we're
Michelle.
excited.
Thank you,
that,
Michelle.
We've got ratification from the union, and we're getting ready
Yep.
to vote tonight.
Yep, I'm excited for that. I know a lot of our people have been not sure what to do and, or, you know, what their outcome is. And I'm like, it's pretty cut and dry, but it's happening tonight. So, yep. Thank you guys.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, that moves us to our second public comment. So if anybody would like to address the board regarding any of our discussion or action items tonight, now would be the time.
And the chat is enabled, so if anybody at home wants to wants to speak, I can monitor the chat.
Thank you. Did you want to? Yeah, come on up. Hi there. As a reminder, please state your name and your relationship to the district, so we sort of know.
Okay, my name is Angelica Hall, and my relationship with the district is I have currently 3 students in the district, and I have an older daughter that's already graduated from the entire district, from kinder all the way to high school. So, been a long time Silver Falls supporter and involved, and I have 1 yet to enroll, so 1 to come, I guess.
Thank you.
And so, not only have I had children involved in the school district, I've had siblings. I'm one of 9. And also, we've been involved in community and athletics, so our interaction has been, you know, has tentacles as well. I help run a moms group here in Silverton. We have about 30 to 60 moms any given year. Additional to that, we are involved with other community and different aspects. So I am coming today super disappointed. Sorry. It is really difficult to be in this situation right now with these kids with masks at school. I have a daughter who has asthma, and it's severe asthma, and so last year, March of 2020, when the school shut down, I actually pulled out my daughter a week ahead of the compliance with schools and so on, because I was nervous. We weren't sure what we were handling or what we were expecting. And for her safety, I pulled her out a week ahead. And then, you know, as time has gone on, the schools has changed their model throughout from March 2020 to now. I have not put my children back in the district until recently. With all the changes that were made with Mark Twain and Robert Frost, I decided that it was quite messy personally, and I decided that maybe changing them to a different school model, like a K-8, was a better choice for pickup, drop-off, and it made more sense for our family dynamic. I was looking forward to them coming back to the school, especially given that this district had taken a stance that perhaps the children were not going to return with masks and it would be full-time and in person, and I was quite hopeful. So I was looking forward to the school district. And the reason I'm disappointed is because on the first day of school, my daughter now attends, or they now all attend the 3 children in Butte Creek, and my daughter Kingsley is the one with asthma. She's not used to wearing the mask. Again, we, you know, stayed home and homeschooled through the district. And so we didn't wear a mask, but we were obviously at home. We choose not to wear masks when we're outside for obvious reasons. And or even in stores that allow it. It's our right, and I choose to enforce that any way that I feel comfortable. So on the first day of school, they went into school and they had no mask, and I also had no mask. I feel that it is my personal choice, and as their parent, I should be allowed to consider what they are most comfortable with, and what is, and what my beliefs also express, not just this principal or even any of you, with all due respect. So she was in class
30
on the first day of
seconds.
school, and she had told the teacher that she had trouble breathing. She had the mask on, and so she had pulled it down. And the teacher told her, "I'm sorry, sweetie, you have to put the mask on anyways." And she put it back on. She ended up having an asthma attack, excusing herself because she needed to vomit from the asthma attack. And so I had to pick her up early in the morning on the first day of school, and that is just horrible. It's not okay, and that should not be a normal experience, sorry.
Your
I didn't
time
know it
is
was a
up,
time
but-
thing,
but,
sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't
we
know.
didn't, I don't think that we were super clear about time, so.
Okay.
Not super clear. If you want to wrap up a few thoughts.
Yes,
make it
so,
brief.
so I guess my question is, I would like clarification on the masks and the rules and what is going on, because we were told there was mask-free zones. That has been an idea, but never accessible to my children. And so I want to find a middle ground. They're also getting mask exchanged. I send them with the mask, either homemade or whatever, and it keeps getting exchanged by the end of the day to a paper medical mask. And it seems like now my children have a target on their back because of the choices I have made as a parent. They are not looking at other children in their mask, so I just want to know what the clarification is. And also, the teachers are saying their masks are not to code. I could not find much about what that means on the school district website or the handouts we got prior to school. And so that's been extremely frustrating, because I keep sending them with different types of masks and they keep getting exchanged. So I'm coming very frustrated, and I would like my children to stay in this district, but maybe under the circumstances, this model is just not for us. So I'm hoping to get some guidance and some more support from this schools, the staff, the parents, and of course the school board.
Thank you
Thank
for,
you. Sorry about the time. I
Thank
was
you.
more, thank you.
appreciate you reaching out to us.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We do have a member of the public in the chat, and they would like to have screen sharing enabled to present. We've never addressed that to my knowledge.
No, that's never come up.
We don't have protocol.
We don't have protocol, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, all right. So Daniel, can you promote Rob Chadwick, please?
And while we're promoting, I will remind folks, in case you missed the beginning, we do have a 3-minute limit on public comment. Thank you.
Well, it looks like in promotion of that, looks like maybe Mr. Chadwick, because of promotion to panelists, has access to the screen share.
All right, so if you could please, Rob, I don't know if you can hear me. If you could not share, please. We're working on the technology, but that's not part of our protocol, and we'll have to have that as a future discussion item, I think. You are welcome to share video, of course, of yourself. But Can you hear me, Rob?
He's commented to go to the next person, and I don't think that we have anybody else in the chat.
Okay. Are you asking to have a delay or to give up your spot to speak tonight? I'm unclear. There's nobody else currently waiting, so that's why I'm asking, if you're still able to hear me, Rob.
Ashley Zielinski has indicated that she would like to speak, so Daniel, if we could promote Ashley. All right, Ashley, I believe you're promoted to panelist, so you can unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yes, my name is Ashley Zielinski. I am a parent of 3 children at Silvercrest, very happy to be a part of that school in our district. But today I am here to talk as my other role, which is a physician. So I am one of the emergency medicine physicians at Silverton Hospital, and I feel very strongly about serving our community. And I just feel like it's incredibly important to relay the experience in our community and how the mask mandate is absolutely critical to protecting our students, their families, and our community as a whole. This is a time of unparalleled challenges. It's difficult to explain if you haven't been there, the degree of suffering that we have witnessed, the colossal challenges to care for our patients safely. And really, we need community support. We do need to keep COVID under control. There's still so many people who are vulnerable, and certainly it doesn't serve our students well to have them out ill, to have their parents ill, potentially critically ill, and all the other challenges that then come with them having a positive school experience. The science is absolutely crystal clear on this, that masking helps significantly in reducing the spread of COVID. And I just can't say strongly enough how important it is that we message to our students and our families that this is absolutely a benefit. We need to speak to our students correctly and advise them why we're doing that. That this is part of being a community member, of taking care of those around you. And again, just critically important.
Thank you, Ashley. Are there any
I
others?
see no one else
No.
in the chat.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay. That will move us to our action items, and the first one up is our classified union contract. We've had our presentation earlier discussing some of the changes that were made. So with all the hard work, they've been able to ratify it, and it's up to us to approve it tonight. Any further discussion before we proceed? At this point, I would accept a motion to ratify or adopt or approve, I guess I'm not even sure what the right word is, the classified union contract.
I move to approve the classified union contract.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Debbie?
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Excellent. Congrats, everybody. Okay, public comment statement. That was what we talked about a little bit earlier. We have the update with, including the updated statement that the board chair would read prior to public comment. At this point, I would accept a motion to approve the updated public comment statement.
I move to approve the public comment statement as published in tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Excellent. Next up, we have 4 policy updates in final reading. At this point, I would accept a motion to adopt all 4 updates to the policy based on the published agenda.
I move to approve the 4 policy updates as listed in the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Excellent. Great. That moves us to item 11. It's kind of a special item for tonight, and specifically, it's for the board to be able to discuss how the meeting went with our first in-person meeting during a mask mandate. So we've met all on Zoom. We've had hybrid, but we weren't required to be masked, but just distance prior. So now we're in mask. And this is just an opportunity to debrief, to talk about how it went, if we thought it went reasonably well, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll open up the floor to anybody's thoughts that they want to share.
I think it's gone quite well tonight. I don't see it being a barrier for us. I think we've had good conversations. I mean, a few times I think we're all so used to wearing masks. A few times I'm forgetting I'm wearing mine, because I think it's been commonplace for all of us. So I see no reason to not continue in this same format.
Thank you.
Yeah, it worked. It functions. I just want to. I do have like just a touch of asthma, and it does bother me. I mean, I know that it functions, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but it does impede my ability to sometimes just want to talk. I just want to sit there and just kind of remain calm and not engage. And so I just kind of think that that's probably a problem that some of our students have, but it functions, it works, and so it's better than Zoom. So
Okay,
that
fair
works.
enough.
Yep.
I don't know if Daniel wants to chime in on our volume. Are we okay with our volume, Daniel? Thumbs up.
Lori, what did you think about the volume? Are you able to hear everybody okay?
Yes, I can.
Great,
We could hear you very well.
great.
Oh, it sounds like it.
Any thoughts, Lori, that you want to share on the format or how it went?
No, I can hear you very well. And until I get some things worked out here at home, I will probably continue to use Zoom.
Okay.
A wondering I have is about, we're asking people to wear masks. It's the rule when you're in public. You need to wear a mask. So I'm wondering what our obligation is to our public when somebody doesn't wear a mask. So that's a concern I have.
It's true. I'll be honest, I didn't even actually notice until she walked in.
I mean, you said at the meeting last month that you would be requiring everybody to wear a mask. So much you specifically said that.
That's true. And like I said, I actually didn't even notice until she walked in. And then at first I thought she took it off because she was going to speak. But you're right.
I mean, they can request it, and if I choose not to wear it, I also have that choice. And if that means I need to leave, that's okay with me as well, and I can connect by Zoom. But that was not given to me.
That's fine, but they also didn't request mine, making a point to them that they said they would request and they did.
Fair enough. Thank you.
And I think we also have to do this in good faith, that we're asking folks to wear masks. We also don't want to create uncomfortable situations for people. And I think we'll get this ironed out,
I do too.
going forward. I have no doubt about that. But I think, again, we want to do right for people, and we want to not create uncomfortable situations as well.
But I have a question. Where do we, I would like that clarified, because then are we allowing a few to come in without a mask? And we don't want to create an uncomfortable situation I'm all for that. But right now, the mandate is to wear masks indoors. So I don't know, who does that come from instead of making it uncomfortable for anyone on the board? I don't know, Mr. Chair.
It's a fair point. Yeah, like I said, I do think we ought to require masks. I think it needs to be clear, the signs say it. I'm also not escorting somebody out of the building if somebody walks in
Right.
without a mask. So,
And I think we have an obligation to everybody who's in the audience to follow the rules that are, mandated by the state of Oregon. So that's a rub, I guess.
yeah.
I guess the only thought that I had would we have, and again, this is just an idea, would be to have somebody, at our entry doors to just, remind folks, and maybe if we can have a box of masks at each door, to remind folks of the current mandates and the current ask of our government, and to say, look, we have to abide by our rules, and we have to do this for the betterment of our public. And if you'd like to come and speak, we ask you to wear this mask. If not, you have the Zoom option. So I don't think there's any equity barriers in terms of sharing any type of comment. But maybe if we did have some folks, at the door, again with some masks to hand out, if people forget them, because I've forgotten mine before too. That might be a good option as to again continue that good dialogue, whether it be in person or also on Zoom.
I wonder if we have any board members who would volunteer to do that, because I would have a hard time asking an employee to do that, because it could be a volatile situation in some points. So that's just
Fair
a
enough.
thought.
It was just, again, an
Very
idea.
good point. I would wonder, could we leave it to our superintendent to perhaps appoint people to do that? Because frankly, I don't feel that, I just don't want to put any of the board members in a very awkward position, because the fact that we are the board, but is it incumbent upon us to then turn around and direct people to do so? It's a fine line. I don't know the answer, but I would feel comfortable with our superintendent possibly appointing some people to have masks available, and just state that it is an indoor mask mandate. Because I would agree, and I think it makes it very uncomfortable for Jonathan or the chair or vice chair, whoever, to then step forward and say, please put on your mask before you speak. Anyway, that's my personal feeling.
I think this conversation, to me, just makes me think that we do need to have some policy on how we're going to enforce mask mandates in our schools, not just within our boardroom here, but Ms. Hall's comments tonight too, and how she's been treated by, I shouldn't say treated, but how her interactions, her students' interactions, and it's not right that the students would have different interactions with different teachers based on their own teachers' opinions and thoughts and feelings about how they should be enforcing, not enforcing, and dealing with students. So we really should have a uniform policy as to how we're going to be, enforcing that. And that's going to take some time to develop, I think. It's a complicated issue.
It
Yes,
is.
it
And
is.
my concern is putting employees in a situation that is not,
But
I don't want to make them
Aren't they
uncomfortable.
already there? I mean, if somebody
I don't know.
walks
I don't know.
into Silverton High School on a Monday morning without a mask, isn't it exactly the same question?
That's a good question. I think I would ask staff. I'd ask staff what's happening, and, I think that there was discussion that we had at the end of last year when there was an opportunity for people to not have masks on at the very end of the year, and we just kind of said, we don't want to have employees in that spot of
Right.
saying yes or no or whatever. And anything moving forward, I think, would really need a lot of thought from staff about putting employees in that situation. I mean, I think students are different than adults, I guess, would be my response to your comment, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I was thinking actually even just parents, or, I mean, parents walk into schools every,
Parents
Every
aren't
week.
allowed in schools right now.
not allowed in school?
In my school, parents don't walk in the door.
You're not allowed in schools, correct?
Wow.
Which is
I actually didn't even know that.
Take up another section.
Kind of a scary
I,
thing.
I had it, excuse me, I'm going to sit back so I'm not screaming into the iPad. Well, I wanted to say, I mentioned that if we had work sessions in person, then it would, and if we had school board meetings on Zoom, then it would allow people to call in, and we wouldn't have to be concerned about enforcing mask wearing, and some people are just not comfortable wearing a mask. I don't know, I'm thinking about the moment tonight with public comments, so I don't know,
The
that might be
problem,
another
Lori-
option to alternate, but I'm just mentioning.
No, the
So I'm
problem
done.
with that is that work sessions are also open to the public, don't forget.
Oh, okay.
So there's really no distinction exactly between the issue.
Well, I mean, I think this is a good topic for discussion between
Mhm.
board leadership and administration before
Yeah.
the next meeting. And also possibly what we do with someone on Zoom who would like to share some documents.
That's the other one.
That
that
type
came
too,
to-
because
yeah.
if they present in person and they want to hand stuff out, we accept them.
Right.
Mhm.
So there's a
I
couple issues.
think
on
I think we definitely need to have that conversation, as well as a follow-up conversation about how or if we want to have somebody greeting people, reminding them, have masks available, and giving options for people that are uncomfortable with it or unable in their view to comply.
Yep. New times and just new protocols.
Right.
So.
In terms of the board's ability to interact, I thought it went pretty well, I'll just say. I actually anticipated it being a little harder. I think it went pretty well. That's my 2
Agreed.
cents.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
It's a much more conducive environment to conduct business. It's just nice to see everybody's faces, well, for the most part. But to have
Right.
conversations rather than having to interrupt each other on Zoom or worry about walking all over each other's words on Zoom. And
Right.
yeah, I just think it's a good environment.
Well, that's why we added this discussion topic tonight, was because it was the first opportunity in this new environment. So I appreciate all the feedback, everybody. Okay, that moves us to 12, future agenda item request. And we did just talk about a couple that might pop up as future agenda items tonight. Any other future agenda items to bring up tonight?
I just have that one hanging out, I suggested this a couple times probably about having a calendar of upcoming agenda items that's not set in stone, but like this is where we think this is going to happen and this is where we think this is going to happen, that all board members have access to, not just the board leadership, because I think we all have things to contribute, and how can you contribute if we're not transparent with that? So I'd just like to make things a little more transparent, and I think that we might put that on the agenda for the upcoming work session. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was probably too long.
No, you're good.
We're supposed to be short with our future
You're good.
agenda items.
We didn't discuss it. We
It's
just
almost
talked
kind of
about
like a
what-
list of like a holding tank of items, like that parking lot.
Or not even just parking lot, just things that we know we need to do the superintendent evaluation check-in here, and we know we need to do this here. And Debbie has a list of the really big things, right? But like the other things, I think we can have on there as a living document. So anyway, we're probably talking about it too much, but
Gotcha.
we can talk about it at a work
Great.
session.
Perfect. Okay, I will also take this brief moment to remind everybody we are not having a September work session. There's all those listening sessions right in that period of time. One, in fact, collided directly with our scheduled work session. So with everything going on, we are going to cancel our September work session, and we'll pick up topics again at our October regular meeting. All right, with that, we are going to move into executive session under ORS 1926602F to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. In this case, it's a sick leave bank request.
Do we expect to be back in 15 minutes?
We expect to be back in 15 minutes. Okay, we are returning to regular open session, and we have one item, which is a consideration of a sick leave bank request. At this point, I would accept a motion to approve the recommended sick leave bank request.
I move to approve the creation of a sick leave bank request for 25 days for Cheryl Poulion.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No, okay, Debbie?
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Can we get Lori back?
Oops.
He said we were ready, sorry, I assumed she was back.
I can't
She
speak,
said
it
she can't
says.
speak.
We got no
Give her a
protocol
thumbs
for
up
this
and-
either.
and,
Can she hear us?
Can she
Daniel,
type
she
in her
promoted
vote?
to panelist. Lori?
Oh, there she comes.
There she is.
Hi, Lori, we can't hear you yet, hang on.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you, Lori.
Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't realize you weren't back on yet, my bad.
Owen voted yes.
Owen voted yes. All in favor?
All in favor? All right. Well, with that, meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.